Hello, my name is Julia. Welcome. This video is going to be dedicated to the book recommendations for autumn. From me to you, only the books that I love myself. But before we start, I want to say a few words about autumn itself. Autumn is all around us, and the leaves on the trees are starting to turn into vibrant ambers and crimsons. The novelty of studying starts to wear off. And I believe that autumn is the best time to romanticize studying, reading books, and just your life on the whole. To me, autumn has always been associated with eerie occurrences, academia, especially dark academia, otherworldly beings, and so on. And of course, pumpkins. Yep. And all of my book recommendations were, of course, inspired by my own perception of what autumn is like. And there we begin. The first type of books I want to talk about is classics. All of us know that reading classics may be truly demanding. Classics may be difficult to get through, and which is why I believe that autumn is the best time to read classics, because it's never easier to romanticize reading classics than in autumn. And autumn is the time to pick up the most special ones and the most engaging ones. So, my top of classics for autumn. Of course, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Then Agnes Grey by Anne Brontë, which is one of my favorite books. The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, which is my current read. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Brontë. Dracula by Bram Stoker. Macbeth by Shakespeare. And of course, The Legend of the Sleepy Hollow and Other Stories by Washington Irving. By the way, there's a great film based on this I think it's a short story. Yeah, a film based on this short story with Johnny Depp in the main role. Then we're moving on to modern literature for those who prefer something more contemporary. And the first one is, of course, The Secret History by Donna Tartt, the most quintessentially autumnal book ever. I absolutely love it. Like, Henry Winter is iconic, and the book is a masterpiece, and I wholeheartedly recommend it to everyone. And we also have If We Were Villains by Emily Rio. It is somewhat similar to The Secret History. It has the same dark academia vibe, but instead of Homer, we have Shakespeare, and well, the plot is obviously a little bit different. And now please be attentive to what I'm saying. If you really liked The Secret History, I'm not sure if you should read If We Were Villains, because honestly, I wasn't that impressed by it, because I absolutely love The Secret History. But I know that people who didn't enjoy The Secret History find this book far more absorbing and interesting, and love it a great deal dearer than they do The Secret History. So make up your mind for yourself if you should read it or not. Then the book that I've just finished, it is Up the Down Staircase by Belle Kaufman. It is not like that contemporary. It was written in the 1960s, but I'm not sure if we can call it a classic already. It is a critique of the public schools in America of 1960s, and it's also an ode to teachers who manage to teach students and to be humane to their students despite all the difficulties. Although it was written in the 60s, I think that many of the parts of this book are still really pertinent to the reality, and even to the reality of other countries, well, mine, for example. And I also would recommend reading the Accursed Kings series by Maurice Druon, which is about the 100 Years' War, the events that provoked the 100 Years' War, and how this 100 years, and about the events of the 100 Years' War, about France, obviously, and French kings. It is one of the best history, like the books from this series are one of the best history novels I ever read in my life. And they're not romanticizing history, like you really see all the characters not painted just black or just white. All of them have shades and shades of gray, for example. Like, no one is perfect, and no one is cruel for the sake of being cruel, for example, which is why I absolutely love this series. And after that, we have like 3 books that are verging on fantasy, but not yet like this full fantasy. These are the 13th Tale by Diane Satterfield. I read this really long ago, and I don't really remember the plot, but I do remember absolutely loving it and finding it amazing to read, an amazing read for autumn. Then also Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This one is about mysticism, I believe, strange, eerie occurrences and that stuff. It's more Gothic than Mexican, to be honest, but the atmosphere is absolutely wonderful, and it makes compelling reading. And then, of course, the masterpiece I talked about in my last video, Babel by R.F. Kuang. It's only came out last year, and it's become really popular since last year, and this popularity is absolutely justified. Babel is a masterpiece of the level of The Secret History. It's one of the best books I read this year, and it's definitely the best contemporary book that I have read this year so far. And now we're moving on to the real fantasy cohort. There are 3 books in this batch. I'm a huge lover of fantasy myself, but for some reason I haven't really come across many fantasy books that would have this certain vibe of autumn. So there are just 3 of those. The first one is The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. It is about a repressive patriarchal society where the main character is connected to witches, the daughter of a witch and probably somewhat of a witch herself. It was extremely gripping, and what I also really like about this book is the dynamic between the 2 main characters, Emmanuel and Ezra. It doesn't get really far, but you do feel the electricity between them. Then also The Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. It's actually the first part of a trilogy, All Souls. The second and the third book are not necessarily autumnal, whereas The Discovery of Witches is something I would wholeheartedly recommend for reading in October. Our main character, a witch and a historian, had like a PhD in history, is in Oxford, and strange things start to happen, and she also gets entangled into some let's cut it out. Just there's this wonderful witch historian and a vampire biologist, and the chemistry between them, and of course the problems with the universal rules of how creatures, those are like demons, witches and vampires, should behave. Amazing, simply just amazing. And then Bitterthorn by Kat Dunn. I read it this month. It's really good. It's like a solid 4.5 stars for me. I will tell more about it in my September wrap-up, but for now I just want to say that it's extremely vibey, and the setting of Germany, and this medieval castle is just what the doctor ordered for a read in autumn. And the last two books that I have in my recommendation list are two middle grade books, because everyone at some point wants to just dive into something middle grade and enjoy the interesting plots combined with pretty simple writing without all those difficult sentences and plot twists of the adult literature. Those are Coraline by Neil Gaiman. It was recommended by Ruby Granger on her YouTube channel, and for that reason I read it, and I absolutely loved it, and I think it's one of the best middle grade books I've ever read in my life. And also The Mystery of Black Hollow Lane by Julia Nobel, which I read this June. It is somewhat reminiscent of Harry Potter series, but not completely. And the setting, which is a boarding school in Britain, and the main character is from America, all this contributes to the feel of autumn and new academic year. And of course there's mystery. Well, we see it in the heading? Yeah, I think the heading. In the name of the book, yeah. That's what we call it, in the name of the book. And this brings me to the end of my video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and if you want to see me again, please subscribe to my channel Julia Caesar. Bye!